Overthrown here.
They still have the tier 1.
Oh, they're killing effigies. C9.
They're going for the GG push. They're actually using the Void to pick up the gem. That's a Void Courier. Sonic Wave. Okay, that's negligible. The tier 4 tower's dropping.
Envy, you have to buy back.
He has to come. Bone 7. There's your drag back. He always likes to wait for the last moment. Maybe. He's very, very deep here. But then the defensive Spirit Fader with the Scream. Sylar and MMY. They're so low. They heal. And now Sylar turning on the Satanic. Getting the life back from Envy. But Envy taking away his damage. 84 points. And Sylar dragged all the way back into the fountain. Not far enough to get the damage out from it. But you still have maybe doing the work. Cloud9. They're losing too many people. And Envy. He's in a nice coffin of death of LGD. How much damage? There he is. He's a jump away. Maybe can't stand here anymore. Zhao 8 will drop. Sylar still here on the front line. Slaughter Fist back in again. The Fortress exposed. They're beating it down. Bone 7, what have you got? Nothing. No life. Nothing. He's down 1653. That's the crit on him. This will be GG. There is no more defense. That's GG. LGD take game number 1 against Cloud9.
GG, well played. What a crazy game. LGD 70 minutes in and 6 seconds is when they managed to turn this around finally and take the enemy agents.
And it's going to be one long day for everyone watching. You don't want to go anywhere. We'll be back for game number 2 of this 2-game series. LGD versus Cloud9 for the International 5.
Wow. Holy cow. I mean, a lot going on there, of course. I mean, a lot happening throughout that game. It ended up being a bit longer than maybe what some people expected, given how the first half panned out. But let's hear your thoughts on it. I mean, Cloud9 definitely, obviously, had the lead. They had a very
Sin was like, how does Cloud9 always keep finding themselves in this position?
It's a very classic Cloud9 game. They get really far ahead. They get 1 or 2 lanes of racks, and they have this, like, historically just have this problem finishing games, like breaching high ground. That is, for me, that's their only really major weakness. And I think the reason they haven't won many championships is that they don't win games like this one. It's early on in the group stage, so you could say it might not be that important in the end, but still, you know, it's kind of an ill omen of things to come if they get into the situation again. How's this going to affect them mentally going into game 2 and going further in the tournament?
Right, especially because it's been a historic thing. It's not just suddenly at TI. Like, this has been, like, this is kind of what a lot of people know of Cloud9. Like, that's their color, so to speak, which is not a good color to have. But Winner, I mean, what do you have to say about whether it's Cloud9 or LGD, of course, I mean, for them to hold on to that long, knowing that they can win that late game?
I mean, like what Sin said, they have difficulty finishing the game, but yet again, they are against one of the best teams at defending high ground.
Very true.
And if you look at in the history as well, LGD are always a team that they play very well when they are far behind, defending high ground, and they come back into the game after that. And if you look at this game, well, the lineups basically tell the story. Cloud9's lineup is more like they're stronger early game towards mid game. That's why they got the advantage in the early game. They got map control from Undying, taking better fights and stuff. But on the other hand, LGD has Ember plus Gyro. We know what's going to happen in the high ground when they have their items, and it's exactly what Cloud9 struggle to deal with in the later stages of the game. The Rapiers, Slide of Fist, and the splash from Gyro. So
yeah. I mean, you mentioned it. Let's take a quick replay at just exactly what highlights those compositions, right? We do have Cloud9. We talked about it. They had the stronger composition earlier on, and they took good advantage of it. I mean, you mentioned it too, Sin. I mean, they got 1 to 2 racks. They looked like they should be able to close out the game. They just weren't able to. But taking a look at one of their earlier pushes as they're nearing the base of the Radiant and pushing through, trying to go for the win. Now, we saw that happen repeatedly. Once we jump in, we're going to see the first time, and then we see it happen repeatedly time and time again. Cloud9 are trying to get into that position, but they weren't able to. Now, okay, Winter, you mentioned that. All right, sure, composition-wise, there is a clear difference. If it goes later, obviously LGD is going to have an advantage, but for Cloud9, I mean, what is it there? Do you think it's something that they can switch in their draft to make it a little bit more versatile, or is it just simply a matter of how they go about the game?
I think in this game, the time they got the bottom racks was actually early enough, and I think they also got the top range racks fairly early.
Yeah. Right.
And the problem to me is that it seems like they're missing a little bit of foresight when it comes to the base push. So generally, when they siege high ground, one of 2 things happen: either they're way too cautious because they don't realize they're far ahead, or when they start getting momentum. This is a very momentum-based team, and they're like when they're rolling, they're really rolling, and sometimes they roll too hard. And in this kind of game, right, you're getting the racks. You're like, yeah, we're doing it, let's go, and they dive a little further, and then they're lacking the foresight of, oh wait, what happens if this and this hero Gyro has buyback, like, you need to think of those things before it even happens, because else, the moment it catches you by surprise, you lose a big fight.
Right.
I think there was one key buyback or one key fight where the Ember Spirit, I think, got 2 or 3 kills. He got like 4,000 gold or something out of the fight, or at least a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
And he goes and buys, I think it was the MKB, and then a little bit later he gets a rapier after the following fight or something.
Right.
You said MKB, right? He did get an MKB, yeah. So, you know, it's just one of those. It's super difficult to do. Like I'm not blaming them for it, because this is like really advanced stuff, and you need to having that kind of foresight is exceptional, and it's, in my opinion, one of the reasons why Secret and EG are right now 2 of the best teams in the world, is that they don't get into this situation because they always think that extra step ahead. And to me, that's what Cloud9 needs to do, but it's so difficult to do.
Do you think there's any items lacking? Maybe a Crimson Guard. Crimson Guard is really good against Ember
That is
and
very
Gyro.
good, yeah.
They could have built it on possibly the Undying for their high ground siege. Maybe that would be helpful, or any sort of other items that is missing in their composition you think would be extra helpful?
I think Crimson Guard is definitely good, both against Gyro and Ember. So I would agree that's an oversight on their part, not getting that core item. But at the same time, that item also really falls off at like minute. I don't know when they would.
You have to get it at a very good timing, precise timing.
So, and what hero would they have picked it up on? They could have maybe got it on the Undying.
Yeah, he's like the best candidate, I'd say.
Or, you know, you could do something a little special. And Bat Rider is a very special hero because it doesn't really, apart from like Blink Dagger and to an extent, you know, everything past Blink Dagger is kind of luxury in the hero. It's the only thing you really need. Blink Force and then luxury, right? So the question is, was the Mask of Madness the right choice? Bone 7 loves getting it because you get the max move speed, so you can pull them as far as possible with the Force Staff and everything, which is great. But at the same time, it kind of looks like no matter how far you pull them, as long as there's a grave available, you don't get the kill anyway on the opener.
True.
So maybe he could have gone for a utility item that they were lacking. I don't know if they had a Shivas on the Razor. Did they? No, he went Sky.
No, he went AC.
He went AC.
He went AC.
So they did. I think they didn't have a Shivas in their lineup, right? So they were lacking a Shivas. Did they have a Vlad's? You know, AOE armor in general is
they didn't
incredible
even
against
have a
that
mech,
kind
I
of.
think, for the early pushes, because I don't think anyone
so,
had a mech.
Well,
itemization then, I guess, could have definitely been improved. But honestly, the way the game went, this was a win for them. If
right.
They
I
had
mean, like
played
you
it out
said,
right,
it seemed like they got the timings right for the earlier phases. It wasn't that they were late already. It's just how they were able to pan that out. So yeah, let's jump into that highlight of the early kind of aggression that we saw from Cloud9 and them taking advantage of their composition. And as we're looking at this, of course, we're talking all from the point of view of Cloud9 because they had the lead earlier on. But Ben, let's talk a little bit about LGD. I mean,
LGD, they ideally want to fight really close to the base because then Ember can do so much damage. And Cloud9 actually get baited very close to the T4s in the fountain. And yeah, it looks like they're initially winning the fight and people are just melting to EE, but then he's really low and everyone has to TP out in the end. And I think this was their like first major casualty. They could have taken just 2 heroes and the Rax and then just backed off. But instead, they really wanted to do more heavy economic damage to Ember, to Gyro, and pursued them into the fountain. They didn't kill them, and they got punished super heavily for it. That was the beginning of the end.
right on. Yeah. So there were fights. I mean, of course, the later fights. I mean, with Ember running amok and pretty much dominating everyone on the side of Cloud9, as long as he was timing his positions right, that's not a big question. But earlier on, I mean, Cloud9, it wasn't just that okay, our composition, we took advantage of it. Their fights weren't bad either. Going forward, I mean, they seemed to have their plays intact. Of course, the shallow graves were a bit of a bane, as you might imagine it always would be.
This is an exceptional fight. They 5-0 them here, and this is generally when you're ahead at this point this much, and you get a 5-0 like this, you convert it into something meaningful like Rax or a Roshan. I think Roshan is dead at this point in time, or I can't remember. But they get this team wipe, but it doesn't end up giving them enough. After that, we're always talking collateral, right? The collateral. Sometimes the fight in itself is enough. You get like a really big golden experience boost, but they didn't really need to get anything else than a tower in addition or something. Like it wasn't like they were far away from winning the game. But LGD's high ground defense, we were also talking about it even in the draft, it's a very difficult lineup to push against. Yes. In the early game, they have a lot of wave clear. In the late game, they have extreme spread damage. So it is a hard task, and LGD played it really well.
Yeah, the Blink Ember I think is really good too, because a lot of times you'll just get caught off immediately after Sleight of Fist, but they were able to execute that really well. I mean, maybe's Ember is really good, and we've seen a lot of Ember lately.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. I mean, in general, we've been surprised at the number of Embers we've seen, and then we were mentioning just, wow, maybe's Ember really kind of going crazy, and then when he got that second rapier, we're like, there's no way he's considering dropping that blink, right? Because that's been so crucial in his positioning. We saw that in the last fight too, because once you get that rapier, if you die once, like, it's pretty big trouble, but he decided to keep that blink dagger until the very end.
I think Dazzle's actually the much bigger culprit as to why Ember's actually playable.
Yeah. And we did see that yesterday too during the wildcard play-ins. So as we're talking about Ember, let's go ahead and now look at the game from LGD's point of view. Of course, when did things start to turn around? As we jump into the game, we'll see that LGD, of course, from here on out, once they start taking one fight and then going forward, I mean, again, we talked about it. Ember and Gyro, you get those items, you know that you're going to be able to win those fights forward as long as you don't make a mistake on your end.
It's just so difficult to push high ground and not take too much damage from the Ember Spirit. And if you're up too far alone, you'll just get bursted down by Lina and Tusk. So it's no easy feat for Cloud9 to push up high ground. I thought their positioning overall was pretty good. Fada has a really aggressive blink. He refreshes, but isn't able to get the blink out here. And this is when Ember and Gyro start to get really scary.
I think if you're Cloud9, you're taking a siege like this, there's only one way you can siege the base. You have to start the fight with a lasso and kill someone right away. If the fight goes like somewhat long, Ember casts multiple slides and there's a second flat cannon, you're not going to win that fight.
And we've built up too. There's just so many things that there are so many advantages.
They cannot win if the fight goes long. They have to win the fight right away. They lasso and they kill someone.
Now, so that's something you guys talked about when we were looking at the draft. Like, okay, well, maybe the Lion can help with that, try to overcome the Shallow Grave and whatnot. And then some of the fights we were mentioning as we were talking, like, oh, that Shallow Grave seemed really early, but that's what they needed to do because, again, the burst was there.
I actually think there's one item that might actually be helpful. Since Cinderan was talking about maybe the Mask of Madness was like, we're not sure how much it did. The other item that came to my mind was like use. You can actually blink, you lasso someone, you use the dazzle, then you come back up. Yeah, and it gives you movement speed, same like
Orchid on the Queen of Pain.
Something like that.
Yeah, maybe
Orchid could have been really nice, actually, that game.
Yeah,
So
but I'm
just
thinking from
something
the
else,
bad rider's perspective, an item that helps the cause of dealing with the dazzle, and an item that benefits himself. So use is definitely...
So him getting it himself so that he's already in position
the
to use the
movement speed
UOs,
is helpful for him, and of course the disable on the dazzle.
Yeah, I mean, they have so many escape tools. So they have the Tusk Snowball, they have Glimmer Cape as well. So it's not only...
I'm not saying it will definitely help for sure, but,
but it's a possibility, yeah.
It could be a good replacement.
But now it's sounding like, I mean, you were mentioning this just a moment